So four different people in different kinds of financial analyst positions. One is the one who actually settles trades. One is the one who actually picks up stocks. One of them actually decides what kind of risk are we getting into in each of these trades. And one of them told me a very interesting aspect of sticking in the industry for 20 years, and it has nothing to do with paycheck, right? And if you're trying to figure out which of these jobs actually is right for you, stay till the end, because the last one of the conversations related to day in the life of a financial analyst is something that even surprised me. So let's start with the first kind of a role, which is usually people find it boring, and which people feel that this kind of a role is related to daily operations. But this is one of the most essential part of a financial analyst role in any company, and which is related to settlements. And I had a conversation with one of these analysts who is at a VP level with one of the largest banks in India. And this is what he had to say regarding his day-to-day work as an analyst in settlements.
There are thousands of applications which you can use to automate the processes, because I'm in operations. So what is operations? First of all, operations is that our task and I have to complete it within a time frame to provide the result to my client. So what exactly we do, just assume that you have placed a trade into the system. I'm just giving you an example, telling you the exact what we do, but I'm just giving an example. So for example, you bought a mutual fund from the any app. There are thousands of apps. You got the delivery of that stock position in next 2-3 days, right? Generally you get in 2 days. So the process behind that is taken care by some application or by an individual. So that process of getting the trade delivered, processing from the back end and giving you the positions into your after 2-3 days is a process which is an operational process, because we perform a step-by-step process to complete complete that thing to give you the delivery of that shares, so that those shares to the market and give you the profits.
So we understand that operations is related to precision, right? And making sure that whatever you actually buy in the form of a stock actually turns out into money in somebody else's account. But what if the question is related to picking that stock itself, picking that deal itself? That's a different animal altogether, right? And how does the job for a person who's actually entering this industry for the first time differ, maybe at the start of their careers versus maybe 2 to 3 years down the line? And that's the conversation that I had with one of the buy side analysts working for a hedge fund based out of US. And you might be surprised to know that the initial career in buy side research is very different from maybe at to 3 to 4 years of experience in this industry. Let's have a look. Usually people have this question, no, first, if I go into research, what am I expected to do? I mean, will I start making models? Will I start researching? Will I do secondary research? Will I just pull out data? So what exactly were you doing in the first few months?
अभी इन्वेस्टमेंट बैंकिंग में अभी फर्स्ट 7 days तो आपका ट्रेनिंग होता है, एक्सेल, पावर पॉइंट, बेसिक ट्रेनिंग। और ट्रेनिंग के बाद पहला इन्वेस्टमेंट बैंकिंग में दे हैव देयर बिग स्प्रेडशीट्स वेयर दे हैव देयर कवरेज का कंपनीज and they have to fill in all of the latest quarter ka data. So where they have the company comparables,
Right.
a relative valuation sheet jaisa.
Right.
And I was looking at REITs, and so you had to not just look at statements and put data, just copy paste. You have to adjust for non-recurring and non-operating items.
Right.
So वहाँ पे थोड़ा दिमाग लगा पे ट्रेनिंग मिली थी कि भाई कोई भी नॉन रिकरिंग आइटम हो, कोई भी नॉन ऑपरेटिंग आइटम हो, उसके लिए एडजस्ट करना है एबिटा, and then put that number into the Excel sheet setup tha. And you have to, in the notes, you have to put all of the notes कि आपने कैसे adjust करा है. It was a drastic shift. यहाँ पे I'm working with my fund manager where I have a certain set of coverage of stocks. I have to study those stocks. I have to study the sector. And there's a big focus on study where you'll be given ample amount of time to understand the sector, understand your companies. And then if you like something, you have to recommend those stocks to your fund manager. And कोई boundaries नहीं है analysis करना है. This is a path कि ऐसे analysis करना है. You have your freedom. जैसा analysis करना है वैसे करो. बस pitch करो fund manager को. There's no one in between. There's no reporting manager. There's no nothing.
Fund manager in the US.
Yeah. Fund manager sitting in the US. You are talking to him on a everyday basis. Probably you're talking to him for a 1 hour, 1.5 hours every day. And you are discussing your sectors with him. You're discussing your stocks with him.
कौन सा सेक्टर दिया?
मेरे को दिया गया था टेलीकॉम, यूएस टेलीकॉम दिया गया था. So I had a mentor initially, mentor के साथ, and then I was talking to the fund manager. पहले 6 month पे mentor था.
So that was the initial part of the career, right? So when you started in investment mapping, but how does this actually change, once you manage to stick around long enough? Let's see it.
So yeah, so is it required that, or let me just first ask you this question, that how does your typical day as a person in working risk management work? I mean, what do you do on a daily basis? Like, how does your day
Okay.
as opposed to, we know what happens in equity research, right? It's very different kinds of a day.
So I'll just put a caveat before the work profile that I'm in. It might not be the exact replication of what a risk manager would do
Right.
because we cater to a product. So
I don't think so there is any such role also, right? That would be,
so
you would obviously be in some function related to risk management.
yeah, it should be some fun. So what happens is I'm talking about to a bank. So if you're in a bank, right? Say you're in an XYZ bank, you're in some function that you're playing a part in that entire process. In our case, what happens is we have an XYZ bank who would be a client, right? If they see that something is not right in their, or they would like to understand how something is working in that product, because a lot of these computations that we have, or a lot of these reports or any of these analytics that is there, is then fed into their systems, and that system that those numbers then go to the regulators, right? So if they have any queries, right, with regards to how do you compute this, or you created this, when you backtest our models, if there is any something that you would like to understand, why is there such a lot of divergence, why is this your models robust, what kind of methodology do you use, so all these kind of queries, they come to us. So I mean, we don't know it completely, but then we have to check internally, and then we probably reach out to research and get information on how these methodologies are computed, and then respond to them. I mean, it's in a way that you get curious and you develop that that content that you need. So I mean, in future course of time, that the small bits and pieces of curiosity that you had before adds up to maybe another client query that comes in.
So do you also play some part in the product development also? I mean, this current product that you are giving, you are also called in for, probably giving insights into what new things can be done in the product.
Yeah. Now this part, right, usually depends on the client's use case, right? And if the client demands it, right, they feel that this is something that's lacking, then we do raise out to our there's a separate product team. We raise this to them and ask them that this is something that the client would like, and then based on there's a cost benefit analysis and all that. Based on that, we provide the feedback. The client submits the use case that they have, and then those features are added into a product.
So notice something that until now, looking at operations and looking at even buy side research, notice something that nobody actually spoke about code as such, right? Nobody spoke about actual programming. Now, this is the next part where we speak to a person in a risk, and his feedback on his day life, or day in his life as a financial analyst at risk completely blew my mind. And probably if I had to take, a feedback and keep it with me as a guide in order to make a career in risk, I would probably take a screenshot of this part and keep it with me. So every job so far that we've actually discussed, right, was about the work itself, the skills and the experiences, learning, struggling, grinding, right? But now let's speak to a person who's actually spent 20 years in the industry, and something that goes beyond just the work and the time and the paycheck is the fact that how does a person stick around long enough to actually go into the highest positions of a company. And that's where I had the opportunity to speak to one of the directors of BMI Mellon in corporate trust, and what his role might be as a director in corporate trust is something that probably you might have, you might find it very interesting and probably take it with you in the longer run. That it's not just about switching jobs frequently, it's also about the fact that whether you can stick around and build that trust with that same company for a longer period of time. Let's have a look. So what does a director of BNY Mellon corporate trust day look like now compared to probably 10 years back?
Okay. So
In fact, we know.
yeah, there are different responsibilities that directors will have, right? So for me, so along with leading this analytics team based media, I have some global responsibilities, right? There are it's more around transforming the process, streamlining, managing a team of around 150 people globally, including India. So it's a mix of all. I mean, you work on 20 different initiatives at the same time, so you need to keep a track of all of it, keep sharing
keep discussing it with different groups who are working on it. You need to deal with all your stakeholders globally. You will have 15 stakeholders that you are working for. So continue to talk to them and understand what the priorities are. And I'm part of some of the groups or the committees which is into strategizing for the particular business that we are part of.
So we looked at operations, we looked at risk, we looked at leadership positions, we also looked at research as a position. And if you want to understand how to structurally enter into any of these profiles, then you want to probably visit mentormecareers.com, and that's exactly what we do. We train candidates in order that they can actually break into these roles, and also subscribe to the channel so that you can be updated with frequent updates that we come across for these roles in order to prepare you better for these roles and to prosper in this industry. I'll see you again. Bye-bye.